Hi everyone, Petrik here. So we are back, and today we have Christopher Ruuocchio again in the channel. This is the author of the Sun Eater series, and well, today we will be talking about the state of the Sun Eater and also the many special editions that now the Sun Eater has. So
Yeah.
yeah, Chris, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me back on. Hopefully we can clear up some of the confusion for everybody since I've made things needlessly complicated. Um,
It's kind of like the price of success, though.
yeah, no, well, these are good problems to have, but people have a lot of questions. I know about the special editions in particular and just about what's going on. So this should be fun. Should be fun.
Yeah. So it's been like 5 months since you I think yeah, it's been 5 months since you were in my channel. So
Gosh,
how's the state?
man.
Yeah, it's fast, man. Time flies.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Tell me about it. My daughter is 1 now. I don't know how that happened. So.
Already?
Yeah, the whole year is come and gone. All the cliches your parents tell you about it going fast are true.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. They weren't kidding. It's universal.
yeah, no, it turns out all those cliches are cliches for a reason. Uh,
Yeah. So ever since I talked to you, I think back then Disquiet Gods just came out, right? And
uh,
no, it
no,
hasn't, right?
the e-arc had just come
The
out,
e-arc just came out. Yeah,
but
the
the
e-arc just
the
came out.
proper book's been out for 2 months now. So
Yeah. So now Disquiet Gods is out. Do you think it brought a new surge of readers to your books?
yeah, no, definitely. Things. What I can definitely say is that it had the best launch of any of the books in the series. So what
Oh,
you
really?
Yeah. What you usually see, right, is you see overall readership drop book to book, but you hopefully
Yeah.
see week one sales go up, and that is the true. We outperformed the last two books. We almost doubled Demon and White's initial sales, which is great. Demon and White did the worst of the three of them because it came out in the middle of 2020,
Pandemic.
let's say.
No.
And so it didn't do great. It underperformed Howling Dark. So but Disquiet Gods are the best opening of any of them, and whenever you have a new book come out, it helps all the old books, and so combine that with all the booktube coverage, which thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
And been having a pretty good run of things, and then we reprinted the hardcovers of Empire of Silence, and
Nice.
that opened at number 30 on Barnes and Noble, their bestsellers list,
On
with
for
no
all books.
notice and no marketing. Yeah, all books. It stayed there for like one
Wow.
day, and then it dropped down. But for a book that had no marketing and no announcement, that's not bad. So I feeling pretty good about that.
That's
Um,
amazing, man.
yeah, it's been a good couple months. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And ever since then, Sun Eater has kind of like blow up in special edition stuff. Now we have how many now? Three, right?
Three. There are three special editions. You see the attempted incarnation of one right here.
See
Uh,
that's the
yeah, this
beautiful
is
one right
yeah,
there.
thanks. No, the outside came out great. This is the Diamond Edition, the American one that my friend Steve and I have been working on. These got misprinted. I won't try to show how it's misprinted on the camera. I think because it's hard to tell exactly.
Yeah.
I can show you this. Basically, what happened was they introduced a bunch of negative space into the middle, and they like cut the books wrong. And so if you look at the pages, they're all shifted about a quarter inch like this, which means
Yeah, that's
everything
not
just
good.
looks lopsided. There are a couple things like the art all got cropped, and so we couldn't send that on to people. They spent too much money, but they look nice if you keep them closed. So thought I'd bring them
Mm,
over here. James Cook did the cover art,
beautiful.
and he is man, he's just awesome. He's working on the Howling Dark cover now, and it's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
Very excited about that.
Is that
And
the latter edition?
yeah. This is one of the lettered copies. I kept one of each. The rest
Ah,
went to get recycled. So the lettered has no text on it at all. We just kept them
oh
blank.
wow, that
Um,
turned out beautiful.
yeah, even on the flaps, they're just blank all the way through. And
Damn.
then they have black edges instead of red, just to sort of
Ah,
distinguish a little
yeah,
bit. And
yeah, yeah.
they'll have like cases and stuff too, but those aren't finished. So that was the one we're doing over here. We did by Kickstarter, and then there are two more. There's one that Anderida Books in the UK is doing, and then there's a broker binding one. And so we like started doing these because there weren't any like normal hardcovers, and there hadn't been a normal hardcover of Empire of Silence in 5 years. So my instinct had been to sort of just like, why don't we just get as many special editions as we can, and try to take care of people. And then they reprinted the hardcovers. So now it's never been easier to get a copy of Empire of Silence. Thank heavens. Because I, after 5 years of not being able to answer the where are the hardcovers questions, I'm happy I can now, because that was getting real old, having to disappoint people. So.
Well, it's a good plot twist, though. And for those of you who want to get the Empire of Silence signed, you can order it in the description down below here, on your local bookstore, right?
Yeah, Coileridge Books is my local independent bookstore. They're sort of a staple here in town in Raleigh. And if you order from them, you can just fill out the comment section during checkout and say, hey, I want Christopher to sign my book. Can you have him personalize it to Stephen? Or whatever, right? And they will hold your book, and they'll let me know. I'll come in and sign it. I don't know that they have any in stock in store, but they're going to order a bunch of them. So if you want to go ahead and do that, by all means, and they will ship globally. Obviously, you have to pay for shipping, but they will they'll ship anywhere. So if you want a signed copy, you can get one.
Yeah. Or maybe you just want to wait for the special edition. You can do that too, but you have a lot of options here.
yeah, we fixed the problem basically. The hope is that they'll reprint the sequels as well. Hopefully, should know more about that by like the end of the summer. But I haven't got.
I think it's promising though, based on the reception online. It seems like there are a lot of people buying the hardcover, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about it, but I just don't have any any definitive answer on that yet. Well, thank you, Mux. I'm glad you liked them.
Here, someone got it. See?
Oh, thank you. Everyone helps. So.
Good chat himself.
I sure am.
No.
It is an honor. It really is.
I'm the one who should feel honored. That Christopher is here.
Well, that's very kind.
What the hell is good with chat anyway?
Well, you're a legend, Petrik.
Thank you. So. Hold on. Hey, thank you, Nada. Thank you.
Oh, hey, Nada.
Nada is a big supporter of your books.
Oh yeah. No, Nada picked out one of the art pieces for the Diamond Edition. We did like we had a tier where people could sponsor a picture, and Nada did that.
She picked one of the art. That's so cool.
Yeah. She it's I think it was one we showed actually. I don't think Nada would object. I'll find it real quick. But she picked the scene of Hadrian in the Fugue Crash.
That one! I use it so many times on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, this one was Nada's doing. So the Diamond Edition has, I think, 11 black and whites in it, and one color piece. So it's plenty of art in there. But thank you, Nada.
Oh, nice. This is a good question. Any chance of getting your books translated to other language?
Yeah. So we got a few already. I think it's 7. I'm always going to miss one, but the books are in, or at least are partially in French, German, Polish, Russian, Czech, I think, or coming to good. Czech, and Italian. Yeah. The Italian comes out next month. Actually, Empire of Silence comes out in Italy, I think June 21st. The languages I know people ask about the most are Spanish and Portuguese. I would love for that to happen. I just have not had any luck getting a hold of a Spanish or Portuguese publisher yet. Would love for that to happen, but we haven't had any success just yet. So.
Hey, thank you, Kaladin. It's been fun reading Sun Eater. Seriously, one of the highlights on my channel. Really.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And here's
there he is.
the Genesis guy, the one who shot up the Sun Eater on YouTube. Long time ago, Chris, your favorite new kid on the block.
I think the only new kid on the block I know is Wahlberg. So that's not my area there, Mike. You got me.
And Mike, congratulations! We must congratulate Mike on getting back your channel. Really, that was insane, man.
Yeah, dude, you had a rough few weeks. Holy cow! But I'm glad it's all back to normal. Hopefully, nothing worse happened. And
I knew you were a Donnie guy. Just got the first book of
Awesome.
the series. That's something I can't wait to get. Nice. Yeah, that's good. That's
Well,
good.
thank you.
See, there's a lot of supporter, Chris.
Yeah, no, I look, thank you, everybody. Especially in grabbing the reprint. Daw, for what it's worth, Daw was taking a bit of a risk. I was saying this last night on my channel. They have never, in 50 years of being a publisher, at least so the marketing director, not the marketing director, the production manager was telling me, brought a book that was out of print in hardcover back into print in the same edition. They might have re-released it or done like a new edition or something, or there are books that never drop out of hardcover, but they never brought one back from the dead before. And this really needed to work. So this was a bit of a, I don't want to say a paradigm shift. Maybe that's being a little too dramatic, but it was something new, and it looks like it's working, and it's working because of all of you. So a sincere thank you, for me. So.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to answer this one first. Yeah, so for this, in today's video, I'll be talking about the broken binding stuff later. But first, we're gonna answer some questions first, and then I will talk about broken binding stuff and also reveal some artwork. Okay, so yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, it's a coming. It's a
Yeah,
coming.
yeah, this is a good question. What happens though if the current printing is runs out?
I think it's a question of like how fast it runs out. If, for example, they were like already gone, they printed several thousand, I think I could say. And if those
Okay.
all vaporized, I think they might have jumped and done a third printing. I don't know if they're planning on keeping the hardcovers in print in perpetuity at this point. It is an experiment, right? So it's
Mm,
possible, like even they don't know, right? But they are keeping the trade paperbacks around, and so I would suspect, in extremis, like if they had to pick one, they'd probably pick the trade paperback. So this might be a like more occasional thing. We'll see. But we had sort of a conversation about the, let's say, collector nature of at least my readers, but about readers in general, right? Like um, I know full well that you all like want your books to match, and you want the spines to match,
yeah,
and you want
absolutely.
everything to be the same and uniform. And this is not so much like any specific publisher thing, but publishers care about that a lot less than you do. And so trying to advocate for readers' preferences has been sort of a big part of the conversation. And I think that I think that they've been rewarded for taking the risk so far, and so maybe they'll keep doing them. Who knows? I mean, we'll see. So
Yeah, hopefully it will keep on happening though.
yeah, it's a little early to say,
Yeah,
but I'm pretty hopeful that they'll at least do second printings of the rest of the books before we think
yeah.
about third printings or anything. Um,
It's quite shocking that when this news came out, a lot of people seem to miss out on Howling Dark.
Yeah, they printed
Yeah.
substantially less of it. I mean, this is like a pretty normal move with traditional publishing, right? If you
Mm.
look at Amazon reviews, numbers of Amazon reviews, those are by no means representative of like the readers, right? It's like somewhere between 5 and 10% of copies sold is the number of people who review on Amazon. But the rate at which they review is pretty consistent. So if you look at like Empire Science has like 3,300, I think, Amazon reviews right now, and then Howling Dark's got like 1,800, right? So there's usually a pretty steep drop off between books 1 and 2 in like any series. That's like super normal.
Hmm.
And that's partially because people don't like book 1 and they leave, or they don't like it enough to jump right into book 2 and they just haven't gotten it yet. That's usually more normal. And so you expect a huge sort of fallout rate over the course of a series. This is one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of Wheel of Times, because if you're losing that many people from 1 to 2, the amount of people who are left by book 19 is really, really low, unless it's Wheel of Time, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why they just don't do a lot of them. And so this is like part of the problem. But anticipating this, publishers print fewer copies because they don't want to lose money. So if they print, say, 10,000 copies of book 1 of something, they might print between 5 and 7,000 of the next one, or even less sometimes. And so I think there are fewer Howling Darks than there are any other hardcover in the series, I think. I don't have a clear look at that.
Yeah.
It might be Demon in White. but there are more Disquiet Gods than there are Empire of Silences. Actually,
I see.
Brain
I see.
printed more of Disquiet Gods than DAW printed of Empire of Silence initially, and so you just sort of you play this. It's a numbers game, right? Like publishers will look at with your first book, it's really hard because they don't really know what to do with it, just because you don't have a sales record yet. But they look at your previous sales. And they look at how fast those previous sales happened to estimate how many they need to print now, because publishers get paid when bookstores order the books, right? And then one of the reasons it takes so long for authors to get paid is they then hold on to that money, anticipating the bookstore is going to return books. So any unsold books after like 12 to 18 months will get sent back to the publisher to be wholesaled, basically, or destroyed in the case of mass markets. Mass markets just get thrown away. And so whenever they get that, the publisher will then credit the bookstores whatever their returns were. And so they have to look at that basically and how fast the books are selling to determine how many they're going to print when. And it's like it gets very complicated, right? And so basically with any series, you're going to find that books 2 and on are going to be harder to find. And also people like are less likely to let go of them. If you bought book 2 of something, you like the books more than somebody who only bought book 1, right?
Yeah,
and so you're less likely to resell it. So there's less circulation of used copies, and it gets harder to find. And so it's tough. It's tough to collect those things.
But I think with your book, somehow, maybe it's also because of the original state where the hardcovers were rare. And now with every new edition, we, like the fans, want everything.
Yeah, that's been really, I don't want to say funny because that sounds like I'm like making fun of my readers. But it is an odd thing. I have a friend, Casey, who keeps saying he's gonna eventually, when he gets a girlfriend, she's gonna ask why he has so many of the same book. And I don't know what I'm gonna say, and I'm like, it's okay. You can stop buying them. I don't want to disappoint her in the future and make your life hard. But there are people who they want all 4 or 5 versions. I keep thinking once I have the broken binding and the Anderida copies, to hand, I should do a video explaining all of them. But we did this because we were trying to bootstrap the no hardcovers problem. Because I knew people wanted a hardcover, and I couldn't make my normal publishers reprint them. So subright sales to fine presses was all I could manage. And so
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting people to so many people to say yes. So I thought I'd get 1, but ended up with 3.
Like you said, right? It's kind of like you're manifesting Pokemon Yellow, Red, and Blue, right?
Oh yeah, well, it's funny you should mention that. I came prepared because I don't have the Anderida or the broken binding copy, so I thought the visual aid here would. Kaladin, it's Anderida. I was talking to Rob on Zoom recently, and he said it that way, and he would know, and he has never corrected me in all these years. So I've been saying Anderida, and I felt like a huge jerk.
It's Anderida?
And that's I think that's what I heard. I didn't make a big deal out of it because but I believe it's Anderida. So
this is just like reading fantasy books, like the correct pronunciation, the character name.
I said Harkonnen all my life. So turns out that's not correct.
Not correct. But speaking of Anderida, I don't think this is possible to get now, right, Chris? Is it possible?
The Dregs of Empire and Other Stories?
Yeah.
Not at the moment, but the reprint is coming. So we have 250 sets of all 3 that are going to go on sale pretty soon. They were supposed to be on sale in like March. That did not happen because the typesetter had accidentally deleted the page files for Lesser Devil because we figured we weren't doing them anymore. And we decided to reprint them, and they had to rebuild the book basically. And so there's been a little bit of a delay on that end, and so those should be soon, and you'll be able to buy all 3 at once. And they have a slipcase now, the 3 of them that they all go in, that I think you'll be able to get as well too. So if you miss those, There'll be a second printing, and it's very probable that we'll do a third at some point too. So because we don't have like a copy limit the way we did with the Diamond editions. Usually when you make a subrights deal with a big publisher like Penguin or something, they license you for X number of copies because they don't want you to like just start making their book, right? They don't want you to make a better version of their product indefinitely and like take all their sales. But limited edition, fine. But I own my novellas, so Rob and I will probably do more eventually. So, and Mike, I think they do sell the slipcase to people who bought them individually. I think if you were to reach out, I think they've still got some, no problem. But it didn't exist at first because we like made the books years apart, so we didn't know how big to make them. But
what are people talking about this?
Okay, so most people, it turns out, don't know Greek at all, much to my chagrin. And so they've been saying Princess Celine's name, Celine. It is not Celine. It is Selene. The Greeks would say Selene.
Okay.
I say her name correctly, and it bothers everybody. But I'm happy to report if you are a Hades fan and you go play Hades 2, you will hear it correctly all the time because the goddess Selene is in the game. So, take that. But yeah, it's a 3-syllable name. I wrote this into because people on my Discord server, my fan Discord server, have been complaining to me about how I am obviously wrong for like the last 2 years now. That I wrote it into, I think, Disquiet Gods. It says all 3 syllables of her name. So now you can't escape it. It's written into the book.
Okay.
This is a Hermione situation, but it's pronounced in the same way that like Hermione is pronounced, right? You say all the syllables. That like long vowel skipping the consonant thing that's English. So it's not an English name.
I didn't even know this is a problem.
Yeah, no, this is this thing that my readers like to make fun of me for. They're like, Christopher is clearly he's had a stroke. He doesn't know how to say Celine. I know that my audiobook guy says Celine, but he does not say it correctly.
Your audiobook guy says it as Celine.
Yeah, I know. He is wrong. I love Samuel Rukin a lot. There are a couple things he does not pronounce the way that I would pronounce them. So, but that's okay. He's the man. So,
this is a good question. Are you considering what you will write after you finish the series?
Oh yeah, sure. I have a bunch of different plans. I'm gonna do Sun Eater Universe sort of standalone novels. I think the next book will be one of those, just because I want to reassure all of you that like I'm not leaving the Sun Eater universe ever. I don't think. If I can write a science fiction story and fit it into this continuity, I will. But I'll write some stuff that's not in this universe either as well. So I don't quite know what's going to come next and in what order and what. But there is, I will say, there's a sword and sorcery sort of setting that I'm working on that I'm pretty excited about. So that will probably show up before too long too. Because I love I love Conan and all that stuff. So I want to do something that sort of has that feel to it. And it's another one of those things that nobody's really doing anymore. Yeah. I say this all the time. Like if there's one consistent thread of criticism I get, it's for clearly liking Dune too much. But no one else is really doing anything really like Sun Eater right now. I mean, there's Red Rising, but my understanding is that it's actually quite different.
It's actually quite different after several books. It's quite different now.
Yeah, so I've never read them, but as I have to constantly explain, but everyone keeps telling me actually no, they're like super different, man. Don't worry about it. So, but we'll see what happens. The sort of the world is my oyster. The one thing I know for sure is that I'm gonna stay away from really giant series with really giant books for a while. So I'm gonna slow down and do smaller things more quickly. If I write 150 200,000 word books instead of 300,000 word books, I could probably do 2 a year, and that would be better, I think, and I could get a lot of ideas out of my head that way. So
How
that's
about
sort of
this?
the next.
When can we expect the big grand finale? Now we're talking about what's after.
Well, the book 7 is 45% or so complete. I've done chapter 30. It's 35, I think, of about 80. And I expect it will be finished before the end of the year. I'm taking a couple weeks off because I have so many like little things I need to finish.
Oh yeah.
And I'll feel better if they were just out of the way. I just did like intros for the for some of the special editions, and
Yeah.
sent them to you. You read them, but then I'll get back to it and hopefully finish by the end of the year. So I think it would be reasonable to expect it September-ish next year, depending on how quickly the publisher can move.
Nice.
But I'll deliver it before the end of 2024, unless something goes horribly wrong.
Oh, by the way, this is Christopher Kent. This is an amazing illustrator. I highly recommend you to check out his portfolio
Cool.
later. Especially if you want someone to draw knights, I don't think you can go wrong with this guy.
Oh,
Amazing.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to meet you, fellow Christopher.
Yeah, fellow Christopher.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce? Okay, I'll go first. I pronounce him. I pronounce it as Dora Yaika. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, it's Dory Aika.
Yeah, Dora Yaika.
Yeah, Cielson is more or less pronounced exactly the way it's spelled. It's it's harder than it. It's easier than it looks. So
Daniel Green is here.
Oh, hey,
You have to
Daniel.
see- if you had to use a book, any book, as a murder weapon, which book would you choose for the dramatic irony? Your book, Daniel.
Yeah, yours, yes. Man, I'm trying to think of a really, really funny answer. My like gut instinct was War and Peace.
War and Peace. There is no peace in murder.
No, there's no peace, right? But it would definitely work, right? And Tolstoy would be very upset with me. But I'm trying to think if there's a funnier one that comes to mind. But I'll stay with War and Peace.
Okay.
I'm at least guaranteed of success if I use it. So.
Oh my god. Someone said, Shad said, we want big series, Christopher.
I know, it's just that publishers are averse to them, so I have to trick them into writing into big series. That's sort of what happened here. I was like, it's 4 books, I swear. It's 5 books, I swear.
It's
And
6
then
books
actually,
now.
well, they made it 6 books. That was
Yeah.
on them. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure it's 7. And they were like, we agree to disagree. And I called their bluff. So it's sort of crept up. But it'll stay 7. Unless I make a horrible mistake.
Nah.
So
I was actually surprised, when Head of Zeus suddenly kind of like announced that, yeah, the 6th book is the last one. I'm like, what are you talking about?
They did that with book 5 too. I think just the chicanery going on with books being split and contracts renewed, not renewed, confused them. But they've got book 7 on contract. Like everything's good there. U.S. contracts are all square. I think the only translation publisher that's got all the way through 7 is my Russian publisher.
Okay.
Yeah. But sorry, I just saw You're All Trippin', which is an awesome name. Say that conning your publisher is incredibly based. I only did it accidentally. I did not mean to write 7 books. I really thought it was going to be 5, and then Kingdoms of Death got split, and that was a huge nightmare. And then I thought that I was going to then have to split what had originally been intended to be book 5, but my publisher was not on the same page with that. But things are cool now. Everything's cool. Everything will work out. The series is going to get finished. That's the good news. I get to write the ending I wanted, and everybody wins. So
you're not pulling off A Song of Ice and Fire here, okay? 7-book trilogy. That's what Martin said.
Yeah, we did that joke when I worked at Bain too. That we would sign like David Weber for a trilogy, and then he would write like 12 books. and it just happened multiple times. We would sign someone for a trilogy, and it just kept going. It's more normal in sort of like more niche genres, like sort of like military SF, for things to run longer and longer, without having like some sort of secondary structure, right? But in like fantasy, usually what you do is like, hey, we signed another trilogy, haha. But sometimes you have these series that are more open ended.
Yeah.
You'll just keep going. But
Yeah. Okay, I will answer one more question, and then we will start talking about the Broken Binding Edition.
yeah, sure.
We already 30 minutes into this one, so yeah. This one, could you self-publish a big series now?
Yeah, I think I could. I have the technical ability. Like I have the know-how, and I have the people I would need to like subcontract for things like editing and typesetting. So I have the infrastructure in place and the experience that I didn't have when I started out. Because if you look at like my novellas, the Lesser Devil is my first attempt at self-publishing something, and it needs to be updated. And it will be before the end of the year. But if you then go look at like Queen of Mid-Ashes now, the production quality is a lot higher, and that's still just using Amazon. But I could do better printing now too if I wanted to do something like Michael Sullivan does. I think I could pull it off. But there are still advantages to having a traditional publisher, and and I'm willing to take the pay cut, for the additional market share, and it's worth it for broadcast reasons and things like that. So the thing about like being, I think, being a writer now is that it behooves you to do as many different things as possible, which is why like my novellas are self-published. It's why I'm doing the Kickstarter, but it's also why I still have like my big series is at a traditional publisher, because you should do as many different things as you can, and find as many ways to get because like look, it's a business, right? It's very gauche to talk about money. I'm a Southerner, but like you need to make money doing it, or you're not eating, right? And so it behooves you to figure out how to make money in as many ways as possible. And traditional publishing, royalties only pay out twice a year, and it's hard to budget household expenses when you get paid every 6 months. Like it's better to get paid more frequently. So getting paid more frequently is useful. So like the Amazon pays out monthly, so it's useful to sort of diversify your portfolio. But I think I could self-publish a big series. Whether or not I will is a different question. So
Okay. I think we will talk about Broken Binding stuff now. So
okay,
yeah,
cool.
this is Pokemon. Which one is this? Pokemon Yellow?
I don't have a yellow version, unfortunately. I just got red and blue. I figured between the Diamond Edition and the 2 Pokemon cartridges, we'd be squared. But like the point is, right, is that like if you like me played these, right? You actually needed both to get all 150 Pokemon, because there are 251 Pokemon. The rest of them are fake. But you needed both versions, and so there's like different stuff in each of them. And if you want to see like everything, if you want Vulpix, you have to get, I think it's this one, and Growlithe's in this one. But like the Diamond Edition and the Anderida Edition both have different short stories in them. And this is not me trying to make you buy them all unless you like really want to. But this is me like putting in extra work to make each of them special, because they should be. And the Broken Binding Edition has its own stuff too that isn't in any of the other ones, not least of which is artwork, right? But like the Broken Binding books are also like kind of your baby, Petrik. So like, you want to take it away? No.
So I'll start with this question: what has been the most difficult or exciting part of the art direction for Sun Eater compared to other Broken Binding series you have worked on? So the main difference for this one is that I get to work with Christopher Ruuocchio together on the art direction. That is seriously helpful, Chris.
Well, that's fun. I like doing it. We've like almost taken turns, I think, picking scenes and like writing up descriptions for them and coming up with ideas and stuff. I think there might have been a stint where like you did 2 in a row or something, but I think the reverse is also true. So because like what you do, right, is you like tell the artist what you want, you like write up a little document and send it to them, and then they send you a draft and you say, this is terrible, burn it, right? But you tell them like, hey, can we like maybe like switch this character for that one, and like maybe more green, less orange or whatever, and you go back and forth until it's done. And so we've taken turns like writing those letters to the artist. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
basically, the main thing about doing the art direction is this is probably the most difficult part, other than the art composition, is making sure the details are as correct as possible without actually ruining the artwork. But sometimes we do have to make compromise for that. Sometimes just a bit, just a bit. Like some details, for example. Of course, we cannot sacrifice some details. I mean, if Hadrian has hair, we cannot make him bald. I mean,
Right.
we cannot do that. But you get what I mean. I think that's one of the most difficult things about becoming an art director. And also, the other benefit of working with Christopher immediately is that I get the approval from him. I think that's really important, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you don't end up with a situation at the end where the artist, the author, then like complains on social media about how this is terrible and you ruined everything,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you create this like horrific. Not that I would do that anyway, but like you end up with dramatic situations. Um, so I don't know if you can hear
Oh,
my
is your
daughter
daughter?
is
Is your daughter
screaming in the
okay?
background. Yeah, I think she might be being changed. So sorry about that.
Nah,
My
it's okay. It's
my wife's got her
totally okay.
downstairs.
It's
She
totally
doesn't.
okay, man.
Yeah, she does not like. This is her first cameo. But she does not like having her diaper changed.
Yeah, but the broken binding
Um,
edition, basically, it will come with this
Father's
information
Day,
is
so
online, by the way. I'm just
um,
repeating here. It will
I'll
come with a new cover art, new reversible art, and also new and paper artwork, and also new board art. So that's like five, five or four new artworks
it's
per
five.
book. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's a lot of art per book for Sun Eater, and now there are 7 books. So you can imagine.
yeah, yeah. And there's art on the page edges as well. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
six.
yeah, yeah.
It's 6 pieces per book, but one of them is sliced up across all 7.
Yeah.
That's the next one we're working on too. So I'm very excited to see that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's 5 full color pieces, 2 covers, 3 covers really, as the board, and then either side of the jacket, and then the 2
Yeah,
different
yeah.
end papers. So um,
It has been really fun though, and because we have shown the board art. Board art, by the way, is the naked hardcover. We have shown the naked hardcover art of Howling Dark, but oh, you can show an
Yeah, I can
example
just
here.
use this one. I can use this one as an example here. So here's the dust jacket, right? So with the broken binding edition, you've got art on the outside of the dust jacket. You'll also have a different cover on the inside of the dust jacket, so you can turn it inside out if you want.
Yeah,
And then there will be on the boards, instead of this one is foil stamped, right? Um, the boards will actually have a different image wrapped all the way around it. There won't be like a title on the spine or anything.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so there'll be images there, and then when you open the book physically, there will be a picture here, right? And then on the back, instead of this one's the same, there will be a different picture front and back
Yeah,
on each of the broken binding editions.
yeah, exactly. And with that in mind, I'm going to show the next board art because, as I said, because we have skipped to Howling Dark immediately. So this is kind of like a trivia. I chose the scene. I and Christopher chose the scene for Howling Dark board art, and Mike, if you're still here, Mike and Christopher chose the scene for the board art of Empire of Silence, and the artist is still the same. It is Peng Lu. So yeah, I'm going to show it now. Hopefully, many of you will like it, and maybe some of you can guess which scene this is. Hold on, let me try sharing it. This is the first time I'm trying sharing on StreamYard. Can you see it?
It's loading now. There we go. It'll just pop in.
Yeah. So feel free to take a guess. And what do you think about this, Chris?
I love this piece. We asked Mike to pick a scene because Empire is his favorite of the series, and so figured we do the ruins. I guess I shouldn't say since they're supposed to be guessing. Obviously, there's a little bit of poetic license here because it's a cover, right? So the spine's
Yeah.
sort of right in the middle, and it's Velka wasn't there for the vision. Let's say, speaking very vaguely, but it's a cover, so we need to get things in there. But no, I think it came out great. I think the green is really cool too. It's visually pretty distinct relative to some of the other pieces. So it's I think it came out great.
Yeah, I love the color green. It's so different also, right, to Howling Dark.
Yeah, no, it really stands on its own. It is Severian. It's Caliga. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got
which
it.
will also be showing up. There's a Caliga picture in the Anderida version that we've got coming out next year. So probably next year. So
Oh, that's happening
with
next
some,
year.
yeah, it'll either be December or like February. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so you'll get a couple different looks at the ruins here soon. But this is the first one. So
Yeah. And I'm going to show another piece here because we have shown the board art now. It's time to show the front and paper of Empire of Silence. Hold on. Okay, I'm really dumb here. Wait a minute.
it's a little counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
I need you to. Yeah, I totally get it. Please hold.
Okay, okay. I think I can do it. I can do it. Okay, this one. Yeah, this is on the front and paper of Empire of Silence. And this one is chosen by Christopher. And I think the artist, Rene Eichner, did an excellent job with this one.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorites. I think of all the ones that we've done so far. Now this isn't properly a scene from the book, but it's a scene you can imagine like would have happened, right? This is House Marlowe sort of looking at the
Yeah.
troops, inspecting the troops, and I just figured we'd do something to sort of set the tone here at the beginning, and then there'll be a different image that's sort of closer to the end of the book, and that's sort of been our strategy with all of these. Is there's one that's like earlier in the book, and there's one that's later in the book. And we tried to pick sort of different tones for each of them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, this one came out great. So um,
Yeah, I was so
uh,
surprised when Rene came back with this one. And it was very quick, Chris.
it was so fast.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous. So when we started doing this, I didn't know what the scope of the plan was. So we're doing the first three books this year, right?
Yeah.
And so I was expecting to do just like book one because that's how the other two have been working. And so this was maybe we're talking about the hardest part of doing this was needing to move so quickly
Yeah.
was hard. Just because I also like had like 100 other knives that I've been juggling, and so time management has been a bit tricky. But I wasn't expecting to like rush all the way through. Not that we're rushing, but like to go all the way through Demon and White in like one shot. And so that was a surprise. But then Renee started turning these in like a couple days at a time. Like I was just sort of gobsmacked. So he's done all the end papers now for all three books,
Yeah. Amazing.
and it's been like a few weeks, which has been like Christmas for me. It's been great. So
It's
uh,
really fun, right? Waiting for each art so quickly.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice now because I've got like not just Renee and Payne have been working on stuff, but I've got John and James and Kieran all working on stuff right now. So any given day, I could wake up and have like two new pieces of art sitting in my inbox. It's a beautiful thing, especially because like there are like questions that readers ask that you get enough that you like. Part of you is like, I really wish they would stop asking. And one of them is like, do you have a picture of like X or Y? And like the answer for years has been no, because like art is expensive and like nobody was
Yeah.
doing fan art. So I'm sorry. But now I have 3 special editions in production. The answer is like, yeah, actually, just like give it a couple months and you'll see some stuff. And yeah, Serge, that's one of the things I really like about Renee's stuff is like all the scenes are really big.
Yeah.
In a way that like a lot of so like all the DAW covers, right? Kieran Yanner, Sam Weber's pieces are very personal, right? They're like single character portraits, so they're pretty intimate. It's not quite the right word, but they're close, right? In a way that like these pictures aren't, and it really has a different feel to them. And so that's been really fun with his pieces. So
Yeah, very true. And for this question, can we get those images also digital? This is sharing online, right? We will share that online after this live stream.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have them on Instagram and stuff. So
Yeah, don't worry about it. And I just purchased all your books on Petrik recommendation. Wow, you haven't read it yet?
well, thank you for going all in. My family thanks you. So thank you
Yeah.
very, very much.
Okay, this is a good question, and I cannot really confirm on this yet, but there is a chance we might be using a totally new cover art, but this is not confirmed yet because the reason behind this is that, well, as Christopher said, Books is reprinting the hardcover. I don't think there is a point, right, in doing the same cover art again. So it might come to a new cover art totally, and also new reversible cover art. But that's in the plan. We will know more soon about it. We will know more soon. Yeah. So yeah, that's another price of success, Chris.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, every time I post an update now, someone posts a picture of DJ Khaled suffering from success. Um, and I feel it. I feel it deep in my bones. So
Yeah, but
um,
that's the cover art. That's the board art and also the front end paper art for Empire of Silence. As we talk about, the front end paper was chosen by. Sorry, the board art was chosen by Mike and also Chris, and the front end paper, well, is chosen by us, and it's beautiful. Both of them are beautiful in my opinion, and we will share.
yeah, no,
We will share more soon. We will share more soon.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a lot, right? There are five per book. We've done three books now, so there's you've seen three pieces, so we have 12 to go. Uh, the whole page edges you won't be seeing now, of course, because there's parts of those for books 4 through 7. So
Yeah.
I saw someone semi-unrelated ask when will Disquiet Gods be in paperback. Not till next year. Usually the paperbacks follow about a year after the release of the hardcovers initially. So, but they'll be
Yeah.
along.
A
They'll be
year.
along.
It's a year, right? Usually. One
Yeah,
year. Yeah,
usually.
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes it's a
yeah.
little bit less or more depending on like how the schedule shakes out, but it's approximately a year. Um, sorry, I just spaced out reading comments for a second there. So you can ask
It's
me about it.
okay. Hey, nah, go ahead. Go ahead. I will share this online anyway after this.
Yeah, yeah. It's just hard to do both at once,
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I know. And is there a release date or pre-order date? This is a good question. No official date yet, but it's definitely happening within this year. Most likely summer. That's all. Summer is quite likely confirmed. Yeah, unless
yeah.
something else happen. I don't know what. It's traditional publishing. Okay, so something could always happen, but
Yeah,
unless
they
something, yeah, it's summer.
publishing does like to introduce complications from time to time. I know a thing or two about that. But part of it too is we still have uh, 6 art pieces left we're waiting on.
Yeah,
So if there's some sort of slowdown, if one of the artists has something come up that could slow us down a little bit, but the way things have been going, we don't really see that happening. So we need 4 more from Renee and I think 2 from Pang Lu. So um,
or yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that sounds about right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the rate they're going, we'll be done tomorrow. So so fast, it's awesome. Uh,
Maybe he has sent the file now. Maybe.
yeah, maybe I haven't checked my email in 20 minutes. It's possible. No, nothing yet. But
Oh my god, Rene
we'll
and
see.
Penglu. What is this? I have no idea what
So
this is. Do
good.
you know? Patrick Layo
Channel
membership.
memberships. I don't know how they work because my channel is not
Oh,
big enough to.
okay. I have no
Uh,
idea what that is, but thank you so much.
yeah, it's a YouTube thing. But I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how it goes. So. Do I
Do
see it
you?
as an animation adaptation, or being a video game? Either would be great. I said before, my preference as far as like film goes is for it to be animated. Because one, I like animation, and it's underappreciated. But two, like animation is a smaller market, but it's like a more intense market, right? And I would rather have like 1,000 like dedicated fans than 10,000 casuals, right? And so I think targeting a smaller but more sincere market is more for me, let's say, than because these days if you like get a Netflix series, it'll be up, no one will watch it, and they'll cancel it, and so like what's the point, right? Because I would rather have a really quality thing happen smaller than have something enormous happen that no one watches, or that is bad. So I mean, like look at Aragon, right? Like that movie did not help. and I would rather avoid that happening. So, and I think
Yeah.
at this point, having a Netflix series is basically doomed to be like having the Aragon movie happen. So, um,
It's hard to have some faith, isn't it? Now?
it is it's pretty rough. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
of course also, if Mike's still here, get made fun of because I just hate everything, as everybody knows. So, just so negative all the time. Um,
Oh, okay. Thank you, thank you. Seriously, I didn't know about that, but thank you so much. It means a lot. Yeah.
um,
What is OPL? What is that? OPLA?
uh, I don't know.
What is that?
What? Whoa! One Piece live action. I got it. Cracked the
Oh
code.
my god!
Um, Cracked the code. But yeah, I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen. I watched like 10 episodes of One Piece when the 4 Kids dub came out way back in the day, and I just don't like Oda's style. Meaning no disrespect to the man, he's obviously a genius.
Yeah.
It's just not visually, it's not my thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I haven't seen either version seriously since you're. But very casual. My brother is like, I would say, the world's biggest One Piece fan, but there's like 2 million people who'd fight for that title. So
I know. Why so
hard to
included,
say.
Chris?
Yeah. Hey, I get it, right? Like anything that comes out that consistently at the quality level it comes out at is like is worth loving, right? And it's just like, it's just a me thing. Like when I say I don't, I'm not interested in it. That's not
Yeah,
me being negative. But
totally understand.
this time, but
This time.
this time, um, but yeah, no, it said something about video game. Video game would be great. Of course, giant video game fan, so I
Yeah,
would be all over that. So
yeah. Me and Chris, we both love JRPG a lot.
yeah, yeah. Are you ready for the Elden Ring DLC? Speaking of,
Oh my
not a
god, I'm so
JRPG,
ready
but
for. Yeah, come on,
I
that still counts. Kind of counts.
it's yeah, a little different, but like in terms of tone and stuff. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
super
yeah.
excited. I've been replaying the base game because I haven't since it came out. I played when it came out, and I haven't really played since. So I've been running
Mm,
through. I built a Black Flame Pyromancer. I'm in Lane
okay.
Dell now. I just beat the first Godfrey fight. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I always,
making good time.
I always
So.
use double sword. Use melee. I always a melee fighter when it comes
Nice.
to this game.
Nice. My friend and I have been playing through, and he's made kind of a gimmick build. He's playing carry and sorcery, but like all of his spells are spells that pretend he has a weapon. So he's using like Piercer, and he's using the Great Blades and stuff like that. So he's
Mm,
conjuring swords instead of actually having a weapon for the whole playthrough. Because yeah,
I'm not super
um,
keen on Sun Eater by Netflix.
yeah, no, me neither. Me neither. I figure like Tolkien telling the Beatles to go away. I'm not above saying no to these things. So,
Mm.
um,
Will you approve though? Let's say they approach you for a Sun Eater adaptation, Netflix.
it would depend on the pitch, right? I'm not like opposed to Netflix as like a company or anything.
Yeah,
It's a question of like what the vision is.
yeah,
And some people get it and some people don't, right? And you can like figure out. It's like very easy for me when I'm like talking to somebody about the books to see how much of it they're picking up, right?
mm.
Um, and it's like sometimes it's really funny when I watch a review or hear someone talk about the books and they like love them, but they like their description of the books is not the same as my internal description of what the books
Yeah.
are, and I'm just like, oh, what did you read exactly? I'm glad you're happy, but very strange. It's a very strange feeling. It's related. I remember the first time my dad read the books after I sold them. He was always
Okay.
like sort of generally supportive, but like when they like became like a thing and like that was my job, he was like way more on board, right? Just normal good parent. thing
Yeah,
to do,
yeah.
right? It's like,
Normal good parent.
you pursue your pursue your dream, but like you do have a backup, right? And make sure I'm okay. But he read them, and he said the word Cielson out loud, and I think it was the first time anybody had said the word Cielson out loud to me. And I
Oh,
was like, who told you? Like, it's very strange when these words that I've made up come out of other people's mouths.
yeah, yeah.
It feels like I'm being pranked constantly. And so, but a related version of that is when people describe the book and they don't describe the book I thought I wrote. So,
Yeah. And your dad read all your books?
oh yeah. He just read. I send him the rough drafts. He's like I don't get like feedback beyond like a thumbs up emoji usually. But
Okay.
he basically beta reads everything now. It doesn't give me like a lot of feedback, but he's like, hey, I sent him, I did a Polino story for one of these special editions, and he was like, that was good. I like that one. Yeah. No, it's cool.
Well, approval from your parent is always good.
Yeah, and he's not a big reader. He read books to me when I was a kid, but like that's about it. Like he doesn't read casually at all. Oh hey John.
Oh, hey, John.
Yeah, he also, this is the funny thing. My dad does not read for fun except for my own stuff, but then he like watches booktube videos now, and like ones that aren't about me. So he's very strange. It's like I watched this conversation between John and I think he's talking to Matt's book reviews, and I'm like, he's like, and
Okay.
you came up, and I'm like, but you watched like an hour-long video to see if I would come up. Like, what are you doing? You don't even read these books, Dad.
Oh my God, so loyal.
It's great. It's great. It's great.
Amazing. Wait, what is this? What's the painting in the right top corner on in
So
Christopher?
these are both Gustav Durey. They're etchings actually, but they're prints of etchings because he did all these woodcuts, right? These are both from his Bible series. It's Noah's Ark and it's the Tower of Babel, both from Genesis, of course, right? And they sort of like form a pair because like this is a sort of natural disaster, right? But this is a sort of civilizational disaster, but they're both humanity being published for their own hubris. And so I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they're cool. I think Gustav Durey is awesome. He did the whole Bible, right? But he did Paradise Lost. He did Dante's Inferno. He did Don Quixote. This is in the 19th century. And they're all woodcuts. He like carved them into wood panels so that they could be screened and printed into these books, right? So and they're just all like really just amazingly detailed. If you buy a copy of like Dante, they usually have his images in them, but they're all super cool. His Paradise Lost series is one of my favorites because it's from those woodcuts that we really get the like depiction of Satan and the demons as these like bat-winged Roman soldiers. It was sort of like his version of them really popularized that image, and that's like the image that like you see in Sandman, right? Like Sandman cribs really really hard from Paradise Lost with regard to its depiction of hell and aesthetically and stuff. And so if you're like into that stuff, it usually comes from this guy's drawings. Which I just think are cool. So.
How does the broken binding? Okay, this is a good question. So it definitely in terms of quality and also illustrations. I mean, if we're talking about like the thickness of the paper and also fully colored art and all that, not judging for based on the artwork itself, but based on quantity, it will definitely lose. Okay, broken binding versions, it's meant to be more accessible, special editions, so it will still come with the specification that I mentioned, like new artwork and also new front end paper, edges, also new content, some extra content. But if we're talking about illustrations, well, Diamond and also Anderida, I think will have it beat. Yeah.
Yeah. So we said the broken binding has 5 new art pieces per book, right? The 2 covers, the board art, the 2 end papers. And there's like the partial image on each of the page edges, right? So it's really 6 total, right? The Diamond edition has 11 black and white interior pieces, and one color interior piece, one color end paper repeated, and then the cover.
Oh.
So there's more art in the Diamond Edition. Most of it's black and white, though. The other main difference is that with the Diamond Edition, I re-edited the text, and so I went through and listened to the audiobook, and any of the sentences that bothered me, I rewrote. And
Okay.
so it doesn't change the story in any way, but it improves, I hope, the reading experience marginally. It may even be that you don't notice because it's like just stuff that like really bothered me, right? And so I went through and did that. The Broken Binding version won't do that because of the way that Broken Binding has its deal with the original publisher. They basically are buying the pages from GoLengths, and GoLengths doesn't have the edited text. So only Diamond and Derrida will have the revised version of the text. So that's sort of the big difference. As far as like new stuff that'll be included, that's not quite gelled yet. But I can't. The Diamond has a new story in it and a new intro. So does the Anderida edition. But Broken Binding, we don't quite know what's gonna go in there.
And it's also worth mentioning that the price would be very different. I mean, Broken
Right.
Binding would probably be, I don't know, the price is not confirmed yet, but I think at least half the price of Anderida,
Right, yeah.
and Diamond.
So the Broken Binding will be about half as much, I think, is accurate too.
We're not sure. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, but there'll also be like way more of them. So that's the trade-off. So if you like want a special edition, your best chance is going to be to get the Broken Binding edition because there are going to be more copies of that than there are of the other two combined. Actually, I think is the plan.
Are the Diamond editions?
But as far as are the Diamond editions sold out permanently? No, but they are sold out for the moment. So the deal that I got with Daw Books was for 1,000 copies of the Diamond edition. Those are all spoken for. But we may get to do a second printing at some point in the future. The problem is right now is that even if I got permission today, it wouldn't make sense to do that because we've got the Broken Binding edition and the Anderida one coming up, and it would be cool to compete with myself any more than I already have been. So I don't know that I'd release more Diamond editions now anyway, but maybe after all the other ones are run through, if I get more copies, the right to sell more copies, I will be able to do more. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do more Diamond editions, but for now, there's only so much we can do.
Yeah, and this one is probably just like Anderida will be like one book per year, right?
Yeah. So so the Diamond Edition was supposed to be one about every 9 months. We launched the Kickstarter in May last year, and it was supposed to ship by Christmas. But then fancy writer you might have heard of, his name's like something like Brandon Sanderson. That guy. You might have heard of him. He did a Kickstarter and sold like 100,000 some copies of a leather-bound version of one of his books. I forget which one is it.
Words of Radiance?
Words of Radiance. Yeah. So the problem with this is that not only does Dragonsteel use the same printer that Diamond Editions uses, because Steve actually introduced them to the printer, but they also use the exact same paper. And so all of this type of paper that existed went to Brandon Sanderson's Words of Radiance printing, and I got delayed something like 5 months. And then when the books got delivered, they were misprinted. So we have to wait another 2 months to get it reprinted.
Who's that?
And so it's taken way too long. The good news about this is this gives Steve and me more time to get Howling Dark together. I should have the cover of Howling Dark by the 5th. So it's like, what, a week and a half?
Oh, wow. That's it?
Yeah. It's partially done now. I have a version of it where it's like everything else is a sketch, but Hadrian is fully painted and it looks kind of funny. But James is working on that. And then we have 2 of the interiors finished already. We'll talk to art sponsors soon. I'm sort of in a weird spot with that because I didn't want to ask them for more money until we delivered the first book. I also want John to keep working. So I There may just end up being more art because I may just pay John to keep working on new stuff and then talk to art sponsors. And Howling Dark's a longer book anyway, so we might end up with like 13 black and whites for that one. We'll see. But because we got delayed, we also committed to do 2 more color pieces for Howling Dark and for the later books than we did in Empire of Silence. So there'll be 3 color inserts in Howling Dark instead of 1. Because that seemed like a nice thing to do. And also I want new art. So I also win by losing. So yeah, it's taking a little bit longer, but we should have Empire of Silence out July, August. It should be on its way to everybody. And then Howling Dark should be well into production by then. I am writing the new story for it now, and I need to write the intro for it, and then the new stuff will be done, and I'll need to edit it. But I anticipate less editing the further into the series I go, just because the closer I'll get to my current skill level. But 2016 Christopher, who wrote Empire of Silence, is not the same as 2024 Christopher in terms of ability. So I had to go fix problems I had with Empire of Silence. So,
but I think it's guaranteed though that the Diamond Edition will have the most artwork, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. In terms of number of pieces, yes. So the Anderida Edition, we're not 100% sure. There'll be at least 4 color interior pieces. There might be more, but it'll be at least 4. And Kieran Yanner is doing those. He did the DAW covers. He's doing new covers, and then he's doing at least 4 interiors for each book is the plan. He's done 1 already. He's turning in the second one next week. So
okay, that's good, Tori. Tori is a great booktuber as well. I didn't know that.
Silence. Oh, I thank you so much. Yeah. I am so glad you liked it. Thank you.
How many words do you write a day? Do you count this?
I do. Yeah, I keep a spreadsheet so that I can estimate when I'll be finished. So I know how many chapters are in the book approximately because of my outline, and I know I can figure out what the average chapter length is by writing a few of them, right? And so it can predict my completion date if I just do some math, right? And like the error bars on that are pretty big, right? I'm usually off by as much as like a month in either direction, but it gives me a guess, and so I track it every day. I write between 1,000 and 2,000 words a day on average, close to the middle of that. Lately, it's been between 1,500 and 2,000. The short stories, for whatever reason, the Polino story, man, like book 7 was getting so complicated that I thought like I was forgetting how to write. I was having like 3-day periods where I wrote like 1,000 words, and I went to write the Polino story, and I was writing like 2,000 words a day. And I was joking that it's easy to do that when half of the words are bleeped out. Polino being who he is, but that was a lot easier for some reason. And I'm writing a Genon story now for the Diamond Edition of Howling Dark, and that's also going pretty well. There are days where I do significantly better than that for weird reasons. If I'm writing like a battle scene and I really get into it, I can write 4,000 or 5,000 words in a day, but I only do that like maybe 2 or 3 times a book. And there are days where I'll do marginally better. I'll write like 2,500 words or something. But every now and then I hit like a weird day and I'll write a crazy amount of words.
Do you find like battle scenes easier to write or dialogues?
So it depends on what the dialogue is. It really depends on the conversation. If it's like a confrontation, those are not so bad. The thing that slows me down is like world complexity. So if we're dealing with crazy stuff like in Disquiet Gods slowed down a lot because there was like a lot of weird conceptual stuff that I needed to like get down correctly. So chapter 40 of Disquiet Gods took me between 2 and 3 months to write by itself. So that was,
I remember that chapter. It was epic.
Yeah, it's very long for starters, and it's also like very complicated, and it's very important, right? It was like very necessary to get that right, and to like have it not be stupid and not be cheap, and and so I rewrote it a whole bunch trying to get it right, and so that was really hard. But like similarly, like if there's a scene that involves like a lot of logistics, and like trying to make sure that like, oh, you understand where like all the players are, those can get really complicated. But like actual battle scenes are usually pretty easy.
Mm.
I like writing action scenes. I they're just very fun. And they kind of like there's some momentum to them, right? Because if you're writing a sword fight, right, and you have a character swing, let's say, this way, right, the other character has to respond in a certain way or die, right? And so there's sort of a automated
Response.
feature, right? Yeah, to the way that you write action scenes, because a cause necessitates an effect and vice versa, in a way that like conversations can be weird. You can have two
Yeah.
characters talking about A and B, and then one of them says Q, and like that can be okay, right? And sometimes you have to do that. You're writing a dialogue scene, and you realize, okay, we're done talking about this thing. We're starting to go in circles. Character, you need to say the new thing now, please. And you can do that, but like a battle scene is a lot more A then B then C in a way that dialogue isn't necessarily, although it can be.
Yeah. That's fair. And
Yeah.
but personally, I think both of them are great.
Yeah. No, thank you.
How do you outline your books? Like, do you have guideposts in each chapter or an in-depth explanation of all interactions per chapter?
It's closer to the latter, but it's they're kind of both, right? So like I use the outline function in Word, so you've got points and you have subpoints, and what I do is I try to figure out what I think the whole story is, right? So I'll write like a 2-page summary of like what I want to have happen in the whole book. And I'll break that down into like 10 to 12 bullet points, right? And I'll have
Mm.
like a timeline. And then I know how long my chapters are approximately. So if I have 10 points, say, and I know my books have been historically like 70 chapters, that means I have 7 chapters for each point, right? And that gives me sort of a very rough skeleton for how long my outline can be. And then I will say, okay, I have to be to point 2 by chapter 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to point 3 by 15. And obviously, sometimes it takes 3 chapters to get to the next point instead of 7. So you have some extra in the bank, right? So there's some give in the joints, right? But that gives me like a pretty rough skeleton, and then I'll go flush it out. And if I have that space, I know I have like 7 chapters to work with before, I don't know, the characters have to leave the Shire, right? Then I can like use a chapter to like, go to Bilbo's birthday party, right? I don't have to skip the birthday party, right? Or whatever, right? We can actually have the characters be there and do something. And maybe be still for a time, or maybe I can introduce a subplot because I have like enough space. So there's I can work something into the book at the outline level without the book becoming too long. And now I need to start sort of adjusting down because my average chapter length has gotten a lot longer. So I need to like allocate fewer chapters to a point, basically. But then as I do that, I write like between like 1 and 3 pages of notes in the outline, like per chapter. My outlines are really long. They're like as long as the first Harry Potter book. But because no one's expected to see them, they're very easy to write, right? They're like very sloppy. I'm not trying to like write nice sentences. Things don't have to make sense, to anybody other than me. And so it's pretty easy to write them together. I can write like 4 chapters a day that way. And so I get through writing an outline for a book in a month, maybe less than a month. And so it's pretty easy, but it's also enough detail that I feel like I've written the chapter already. So when I write the chapter for the first time, I feel like I'm writing it the second time, and that makes it easier to write because you like know what you're doing. And most writer's block is just like you haven't thought through what you're writing, right? Which is like an obvious thing to say, but like if you can't write the scene, it's because you don't know what the scene is. And so the outlining and the way I outline takes a lot of that wondering out of the equation. But then there are also times where I get far enough into the books, I realize like I haven't outlined enough, or like my idea like didn't work. The outline isn't quite there, so I have to go and re-outline. So like the battle at the end of book 3, I got into twice. I hit a wall, and then I took my outline and I rewrote what was left of the book in the outline twice, I think, and like rethought the battle and how it was going to play out because I hadn't thought about the logistics enough, right? And so I went and replanned things sort of in process because I think people, when they hear that like a writer outlines, means that you have to like be a slave to your own plan. But like the outline like should work for you, and if the outline's not working for you, you change it, right? The only like bad strategy is a strategy that doesn't result in a finished book, right? there could be better strategies, but like as long as you're writing, and the book's getting done, it's a good enough strategy.
True. And are those pretty clean words every day, or need
Uh,
lots of editing? Editing, right?
they're relatively clean.
Okay.
If you publish them, if I publish the first draft directly, you you'd be like, hey, he missed a bunch of words. This is kind of sloppy. 4 stars. But they'd be readable, and you'd like the story would be fine. Howling Dark and Demon and White are basically unedited. They went straight to copy edit. So my editor didn't have any story input on those books basically at all. She was just like, yeah, these are basically fine, whatever. And they went straight to the copy editor who like fixed the commas and the missing words. I see Gabriel in chat. Father Gabriel here is saying facts because he keeps catching my missing words.
Okay.
He beta reads for me. But he was complaining about missing words in the and rightly so, about missing words in the Polino story, which I think I fixed, by the way. I went and reread it yesterday, but yeah, so they're mostly clean. They're not. I could go straight to a copy editor and just have the commas fixed, and the book would be relatively passable. But
will the audiobook of Disquiet Gods be released on Apple Books?
So this is an interesting question because I got an email about this from, I think, a gentleman in Germany who said it wasn't available. So if this is a UK EU question specifically, I have an email into Head of Zeus. I haven't heard back yet. But if this is on the US, I don't know. I didn't know it wasn't there, and I will have to send a separate email. I don't see why it wouldn't be released on Apple Books. My guess is that, so what happens is publishers, both print and audio, have like a central database that populates out to the different marketplaces, right? Amazon will pull from them, Barnes & Noble will pull from them. It's possible there's just a metadata glitch and the book didn't go through on Apple Books in some way. And if it's happening in the US, Frederick, and in the UK and the EU in particular, that would be especially suggestive of some sort of problem, especially if it's available in whatever your country is on a different platform. It suggests a metadata issue. And that's something the publisher should be able to just fix. So if you don't mind saying what country you're in, I can figure out which publisher I need to talk to, or email again and see if I can get an answer. So
yeah, so that's the answer, Frederick. So feel free to email Christopher about this or chat in the comments which country.
But we should be able to fix it. I've been trying to figure it out for the EU. So
there's this saying, please make 7 more books about Adrian.
Well, I don't know that we've seen the last of him exactly. I haven't figured it out yet. But the next like big Sun Eater universe series, when I write it, won't be about him directly. But he, should I like troll people and quote Disney Star Wars and say no one's ever really gone? Oh
my God, that's a good one.
Yeah, no one's ever really gone. He could show up. He could show up.
He could show up. He could show up.
It's a distinct possibility. But okay, Frederick, you're in the USA. Okay, cool. I will email Recorded Books then and figure out what's going on. Because it sounds like there's a problem on the back end.
This is a good one. Do you structure your books like manga arcs intentionally, or is there something that happens subconsciously?
Oh, it's like totally intentional at this point. As soon as I realized that was like my instincts in terms of narrative structure were kind of Japanese, I just decided to think that way. When I did Demon and White in particular, I had like little arc titles for them that aren't in the books because the book's not structured that way. It just has chapter titles. But I thought about them as having arcs with titles and things. I haven't done that since because it was unnecessary. I couldn't really use it, but it
worked so good though, Chris, for Demon and White. The separate structure, it was amazing.
Yeah, Disquiet Gods is a lot like that. Shadows Upon Time a little bit less so, just because of the nature of the book. So much of it is about the war. So it's kind of like one big thing. But my instincts are I think very much after that fashion, right? Like I grew up a weeb before we called them weebs. I think I said that on the last interview. And I've probably played as many JRPGs as I've read fantasy novels, to be perfectly frank. And so there's that's had an outsized influence on the way I think about story over the course of my life. And so my friend Nick has an ongoing joke that Sun Eater is his favorite anime ever. So I have a sense that I should just sort of lean into that. So, we'll see what happens.
That's a good question, and it fits. Okay.
I certainly do. Certainly do. Yeah, I'll make a note, Frederick, to ask recorded books right now. Let me write that down.
Yeah. Any plans to write an epic fantasy in the near future? I think Chris talked about sword and sorcery earlier, but who knows? Maybe it might happen.
And the thing too, right, is as people know, I have like a bunch of very contrary opinions about things. I think that like we spend a lot of time as fantasy and science fiction readers arguing about like where the line is between something like sword sorcery and epic fantasy. And like if you tried to explain this to your grandmother, she'd be like, "It's the same thing, man. Like, what's wrong with you? They both got wizards in them." And so like I had this conversation with my agent. She was like, "Nobody is going to buy a sword and sorcery, Christopher. It's not 1924. It's 2024." And I said, "Well, call it epic fantasy then. We don't have to explain the difference to anybody. It'll be fine." And so maybe you would call the sword and sorcery thing an epic fantasy. Maybe that would be a better thing to call it. I think sword and sorcery is a cooler name. But alliteration is kind of hard to beat, right? So I don't know, but my instinct is to lean more fantastic for a while, even with like the science fiction stuff. I mean, that's what Sun Eater has sort of moved in that direction, right? It's gotten more fantastical as things have gone on, and there is a different feel. Sorry, I just saw your Trippick's comment about Liber and Tolkien, and you're right, they do feel different. But like from a sales perspective, you could call them the same thing, right? A lot of people, most people, I think, who would like one would like the other, even though they are different.
Okay.
I think we're in this weird spot now where our reading culture has gotten like very particular because you have the luxury of being very particular. And I have a friend who has been he's been a fan since like the 70s, right? His name's Ben. He's been to every Worldcon since like 73 or something. He's got the record for most Worldcons attended consecutively of anybody alive. And
that's amazing.
He's so cool. You should interview him. Honestly, he's on the Hugo Commission. He's been around for decades. He's a absolutely he like his knowledge of like the oral history of fandom, right? Is absolutely unparalleled. Like science fiction culture, right, has like not preserved its like cultural memory at all. But Ben remembers it because he's lived at least the last like 50 years of it, right? And so like he knew Asimov, he knew Campbell, he knew Clark, right? He like grew up like seeing these people every year, right? And so so he's like super fascinating to talk to, and back in his day, right, like everybody could read everything, and so you would read things that like weren't to your taste because you could read everything, and everybody was having the same conversations about the same books. And now there are so many books, which is a blessing, but it's also a curse in that like our ability to have a conversation with each other is damaged because we're not reading the same things the way that people were 50 years ago. And so the culture around reading, except for like the high points, right? Like everybody reads Martin, everybody reads Rothfuss, whatever, right? Like except from that, like people don't have things in common anymore. There's literally, you want to talk about the Tower of Babel, like that's fandom now, right? Like there are whole writers, like I didn't know Pierce Brown existed until I was compared to him. And he's a New York Times bestseller. I missed an entire New York Times bestseller because there's so many books, right? And
I get what you're saying.
And so since we get to be so particular about like what we want to read, we can say, hey, this fantasy, that's like, it's not blue, man. It's like cerulean. It's the wrong shade of blue for me. Whereas like 50 years ago, people wouldn't be so particular. And so my instinct from like a marketing perspective, if I were to write sword and sorcery, is just call it fantasy and refuse to elaborate and leave. To quote the meme, right?
Okay. remember Earth meme culture overall, like some Wojak edits.
No, the fact that Karn drops a Man of Culture meme is a pure coincidence. All of the memes are not diegetic. It's just so that you all will laugh. Tor Palos has no idea what he's done. He's just translated. He's accidentally in translating the book into English. He has accidentally made some jokes. Karn has no idea about 21st century memes. Karn is separated from us by a couple thousand years. His birth is separated from us by a couple thousand years. It's not like it's 2024 and then the empire is founded, right? There's a couple millennia in there. So
yeah, true. Did you get a lot of inspiration from Hyperion? Some things remind me a lot.
Hyperion is definitely it's sort of a weird meta influence, more than it is a primary one, the way that like Dune is. It's I was actually talking about this last night. It's from Hyperion that I like learned that you could reference stuff on the scale that I do, because Dan Simmons does, right? In the Detective's Tale in the book, the internet works exactly the way the internet works in Neuromancer, right? They don't have firewalls, they have ice. They jack in, they have cowboys, right? It's the exact same language that's used in Neuromancer. He just lifted it from Gibson completely. And Hyperion's only separated from Neuromancer by, I think, 5 years, right? So he's like very deeply in that section of the book, at least in conversation with Gibson. And that was very on purpose. And reading that, I was like, oh, shoot, you could do that? That's like allowed. So in a certain sense, the fact that the books are so elusive to other science fiction books is an illusion in itself to Hyperion, right? And now there are a couple other sort of things that like have come to me from Simmons, with some of like the time travel communication stuff. That was a little bit of an inheritance from there. But my project in writing Sun Eater broadly was to sort of synthesize this idea that I'd had as a reader throughout the first part of my life, looking at all these stories and taking like every opportunity, as we all do this, we read a book and we think it's going to go left and then it goes right. And we say, man, left would have been cooler. And if you get enough of those left turns stacked up, you can like build an idea out of them. And I had this sense that there was like an idea I wished that all of these books would talk about, and they never do. So what if I like made a story that addressed this thread that I was feeling I wish these other books had talked about, and sort of grow the story out of that, but also do it in a way that I hope is respectful of and pays homage to those books that got me there in the first place, so that the readers, when they read the books, will say, hey, like this guy has something to say about Dune that's interesting and maybe worth considering, and maybe he likes Dune, but he has some thoughts about Dune, right? But it's not just Dune, it's also this other book, and it's this book, and it's Greek history, and it's the Roman Empire, and it's general concern about robots or whatever, right? And and so that was sort of this weird agglomerative process that like created Sun Eater. It's really, and I hope it comes across as this. It's really a love letter on my part to all of the books that made me the reader that I am, and an attempt to sort of give back to the art form that I love.
Yeah, true. And is that a straw hat in the background? Yeah, it is. That's
Nice.
that's One Piece, Luffy's straw hat. I got that when I was in Japan. Love that series so much, and yeah, this is something that I agree completely. I mean, Sun Eater is really science fantasy, and the magic here, let's keep it vague. But magic in Sun Eater is really rare, and the impact is so good. Plus, the mystery is really strong throughout the entire series. So if you haven't read the series yet, if this is something sounds like something that you might like, I highly recommend it to give it a try.
Yeah, and gosh, if you haven't read it and you're still here after an hour and a half,
I know that would be crazy.
Bless you. You're the best.
Any idea when the future Sun Eater stories will occur relative to this current series timeline?
So if it impinges directly upon the cast, it'll probably be after rather than earlier. Now, some of the novellas and stuff will be set earlier. So after I finish book 7, I'm going to write a Valka novella that'll be set between books 3 and 4. I meant to write it earlier, and I just ran out of time. So it'll be after Demon in White. There's a very conspicuous episode in Valka's life that is skipped between those two books. and I want to go back and tell it, but it had to be told from her perspective, so it couldn't be in Kingdoms of Death, because Hadrian's perspective on it is mostly sitting in a waiting room, and that's not very interesting.
Nah.
So we're not gonna do. We've done that already. There's one waiting room in the series, and that's enough. But yeah, so I'm gonna go back and do that. But most of the like new stuff I think will be set later. Certainly when I get to writing another series in the universe, it'll be later. I know people like want to see the Foundation War, but tough. You're not going to. It's better, I think, as backstory. But I will be writing stories that are set earlier in the timeline. It's just, if I'm going to do that, it's not going to be like a prequel in the sense that it's like about, young Obi-Wan, right, and Anakin. It's not going to deal with characters who are directly involved in a primary way with Hadrian or anything. There won't be like a or with the early stages of the war or something like that. It'll be, if it's earlier, it'll be because it's earlier in just in the timeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And do you have an idea of the name of all the series in the Sun Eater universe after post Hadrian? Someone asked something about that.
I'm going to have an umbrella title. They're just all going to be called Sun Eater. The Sun Eater specifically refers to the 7 books that Hadrian wrote. Assuming, of course, he only wrote 7. It's possible that there are more. There are giant gaps. It's almost like books are missing. If I really want to sell out, I can go write book 2.5. Yeah. So but I'll still call them Sun Eater. That's pretty solid. Sorry, I just saw one of the comments. But I think it's a pretty good name for things, so I'm gonna keep it. So
yeah, I agree with this. The set characters is so good, especially when somehow, because they are told from the perspective of Hadrian, right? But everything is so well fleshed out. So you're right on this, Hoi.
Yeah, well, thank you. You have a lot of anxiety about that when you write first person, right?
Yeah, it's always one of the issues.
Yeah, and I chose first person for a couple of reasons. The first is that, like, main characters often are not people's favorite characters, and like for a lot of you, that's probably true even here, right? But like, I felt like I would stand a better chance of people liking Hadrian if we got to spend as much time in his head as possible, and so first person lets you do that. It also like makes the text, I think, more interesting in a lot of ways, because everything that's there is a consequence of Hadrian's intentions, right? But you trade off maybe not getting to look at other people very closely, unless it turns out you write novellas and do a bunch of short stories and have your first person narrator like not understand his friends all the time and sort of play with the space between Hadrian's idea of who someone is and who that person is, right? Because like we like very rarely really know other people, right? We have like a model of another person in our head that isn't the other person, right? Like they like probably have like whole aspects of their life that you like don't know anything about, right? And they don't want you to know about and all of that stuff. And so that comes out in the short stories. Hadrian, like their whole things about his friends that like they never talk about, but they think about constantly. Like you like maybe know somebody who like had this horrible traumatic thing happen to them and they don't talk about it because they don't want you to know, right? And so that's something I think about a lot just in my regular life. And so getting to think about that with the characters is interesting, and having the opportunity to go back and be in their shoes for a little while and sort of contrast that with Hadrian's incomplete but sincere impressions of them, I think is very meaningful. For me as an artist, at least. I hope it is for readers too. And I just saw Robson here's asked a couple times, any publisher plan to release the books in Brazil? I don't have contact with any Brazilian publishers, but yet, but I would love for that to happen. It's on my it's like right at the top of my list is Portuguese and Spanish. So.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Jared. Thank you so much for
Hey, Jared.
watching.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah. Jared's channel is amazing, man. He's like, Jared's channel is amazing.
Yeah. That was so good.
Yeah. And really, if many of you here watching this right now and you want to learn about philosophical stuff, you cannot go wrong with watching Jared's stuff. By the way, Chris, your voice is kind of lagging here. Yeah, is it good now?
Yeah, I was still breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, not sure what's going on.
I think we're okay. Patrick, are you still here?
Yeah, you're good? Yeah, I'm still here. Can you guys hear us on the live chat?
A little bit of a lag situation here.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm okay.
Yeah,
I think
I
we're
think it's back now. I think it's
good
back
now.
now.
Maybe. Double
Hi
A, thank
Orion.
you. No. Uh-oh, we're still like,
Yeah, yeah, it's still lagging on Christopher's end. Mine is good.
hang on. Maybe if I stop the camera for a second. Is the audio coming
Yeah.
through better now?
Yeah, it is.
I figured if I limited the bandwidth maybe for a little bit, I'll try to bring the camera back in a minute. But
Yeah, okay.
uh,
Yeah, let's go with this for now.
yeah,
Mysterious.
yes, yeah. Am I Christopher? But
Or
yeah,
are you the half mortal?
um, yeah. I every now and then my internet will do this. They are doing a lot of construction right across the street still.
Oh,
So maybe they did something. I don't know.
yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
No, it's okay. Let's answer a few more questions, and then we'll call it a day. I
Yeah,
know
sounds
Dune
good to
and
me.
Book of the New Sun are two pillars of inspiration for the Sun Eater, but what would you be the third to finish the trinity of books you probably say to read before Sun Eater?
That's an interesting question because, like, if we're just asking like what my favorite books are to complete that set, would be Lord of the Rings, right? But I
Ah,
don't
yeah.
know, and like maybe that's still a good answer because thematically speaking, I hope that there is significant enough crossover between those works.
Hmm.
I want to be Tolkien when I grow up, uh, but like maybe that's not the right answer. Maybe Hyperion is a good answer. Um, maybe Hyperion's a good answer. Maybe Berserk is a good answer.
Yeah, come on, Berserk, man.
Yeah, okay. Patrick says Berserk, so Berserk. Read Berserk.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah,
There,
read Berserk, everybody. Do
there
that.
were some stuff, especially in Kingdoms of Death, that definitely reminded me a lot of Berserk. I said that in my review, and I will stand by it. It's amazing, man. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
you're not wrong. It was
Oh, whoops!
deliberate. Did it happen
I
again?
think the sound is
Man,
gone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happened again. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry
Kingdoms
about
of
that.
Death is Berserk. Kingdom of Death is Berserk inspired.
Yeah,
I
no,
think partly it is.
yeah, so that was what I was saying when it glitched. Was that I
Yeah,
figured if Full Metal Alchemist could borrow the Eclipse, I could too. So
yeah. Oh,
um,
I love Fullmetal Alchemist, Chris.
it's so good. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Uh, so
See,
good.
this is why Sun Eater could work as an anime.
I would love nothing more. I really would. But we'll see. I've said before, my ideal adaptation is to get like Mamoru Oshii at the height of his powers to make a Sun Eater movie
Ooh,
like
yeah.
1995. Ghost in the Shell is a
Yeah,
masterpiece, just so good.
amazing, amazing
Um,
movies. Okay, how about this? As an author, when do you decide to use a glossary of terms on characters of your book, and what is the reason to do it?
so the reason I did it in the first 5 books is because my mother asked me to. And I said, "You bet, Mom, I got you." And then I stopped because my new publisher said they didn't want me to do it. So um, they said, "We're worried about how long the book is. Paper is expensive.
Mm,
Please, no, thank you." And so I didn't do it anymore. And I know that some people are sad that they're gone. The timeline we did instead because when they printed, you print books in sets of 16 pages. And they had like 9 left. And I said, "Hey, this timeline is like 8 pages. Do you want it?" And they said, "Sure." So we filled out the extra pages. If the timeline had been too long as well, they wouldn't have used it. So
I think the timeline is useful too, though, because we haven't ever really seen like the date and all that and all the years.
I needed to clean it up. Honestly, the timeline I've been using was not presentable, so
Mm.
I had to clean it up for everybody. But yeah, so that was sort of a compromise under the circumstances. So, um, yeah, um, I'm sorry about losing the glossary, but look, I had orders,
Yeah.
and I
And
had to do what I had to
it
do.
is true. For those of you who don't know, the price of paper has increased a lot, and this is basically confirmed by every publisher, fine press publisher, and everyone really.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, this is why my books got split in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Is the books got so long that Penguin Random House told all of their labels, like Dog was one of their labels at the time, that you can't run a book over 200,000 words unless it's a really special case, right? Like if Pat Rothfuss had delivered, that would have been fine. Um, and so I had to do what I had to do, and it's just there are these external, physical pressures on publishing that we don't think about. We think all the time that like, oh, it's art and like the art should lead, but sometimes there are things
Yeah.
that you just can't do anything about. So
Yeah,
um,
it is unfortunate, but that is really the case.
yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but recall you saying that yeah, it is true. Christopher is published under Door Books for the first 5 books of the Sun Eater, and that's where Pat Williams' books is published.
Yeah. So I have not read any of Ted Williams' books. I have met him though. He was at a dog dinner at, was it Worldcon or World Fantasy Con that I was
Okay.
at in 2018, and he came around and shook all the new writers' hands and introduced himself, and I thought that was really cool. Uh,
Oh my god, that is nice.
yeah, none of the other like more established writers did. Pat wasn't there. Pat Rothfuss wasn't there. I shouldn't call him
Um,
Pat. I just talked to Betsy Wolheim so much. She calls him Pat. It's rubbed off of me. I've never met the man, so I really ought not do that. But I have the same problem. I know so many people from Utah who call Brandon Sanderson by his first name, and I've never met him. So I shouldn't do that either. But he wasn't there. But Tad Williams came around and introduced himself, which I thought was a really cool thing to do. Um, of the bigger writers that I've met, only a couple have like gone out of their way to like say hello to writers like me. Jim Butcher went out of his way to say hello to me when we were working at a booth together. He came around and introduced himself, which was really cool. I like him a lot. A couple times I've met him. But it's like the two of them and like Larry Correa has always been very gracious to me.
hmm.
But yeah. But no, Tad was really cool. It was really cool meeting him. But I've never read Memory Sorrow Thorn. One day maybe.
It's a great trilogy. I imagine that you don't have a lot of time to read books now, right?
It is tough.
Yeah.
I keep telling myself I should do audiobooks, but then I like open YouTube instead, like a fool. And it's tricky. Like, where does the time go? I heard those books involve like the Prester John myth, though, which is really sort of an obscure a medieval fantasy from the Middle Ages that I was surprised to see in a fantasy novel. So that's cool.
Mhm.
Uh, but I need to read them one day.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the Sun Eater series. Okay, to go back to the topic of special edition, and then we'll call it a day. But yeah, I agree. I mean, you can just choose because we have now a lot of options, right, for special editions, Broken Binding, Anderida, and also Diamond Edition, and you can just choose which one fits your needs more.
Yeah, and I hope if if you manage to not get one of them for whatever reason, hopefully we'll be able to do more for you down the road.
Yeah.
I got a lot of stuff we're working on though, right? It's not just book 7. It's not just these special editions. There's other stuff in the future. We're doing everything we can to
Yeah.
make sure that you all have you know uh, just I keep doing as much as I can, basically. Sorry, the sentence got away from me. My phone is my camera, and it just beeped, and that distracted me because I thought I muted it. Um,
Oh, that's your phone. I thought it was mine.
yeah, no, sorry, I thought I muted it, but it just started going. Anyway, it's really annoying when it starts doing that as the camera. But yeah, no, and the other thing I guess I should like say is in closing is that like really none of this would have been possible without you guys, right? Like this has all been possible because readers have shown up. And I would look like a serious fool if I went, to my publishers and said, "You have to believe me; it's all going to work out." If you guys didn't turn up, and so the fact that you have has made all this possible. It literally could not do this job without you, and that is not lost on me. And I hope you all know that. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I think let's call this a day. And really, it means a lot to me and also to Christopher for those all of you watching this for almost 2 hours. Yeah, that's a long time. But yeah, for almost 2 hours, all of you are watching this, and we totally appreciate this. And again, if you want to get the Sun Eater, the hardcover edition signed right now, it is possible. I have attached the link in the description down below, and there will be more information about the Broken Binding, Anderida, and also the Diamond Edition to come. So yeah, that's really it. So Chris, really,
thank you for having me.
So much. Thank you so much, really, for coming to my channel again. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for us today. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.